Imagine giving birth to two twin girls, raising your kids, and then they kill you. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl, that girl Tracy, and I'm back. You know, it's been a minute. I haven't uploaded since the summer, since like June or July. My last video was a try on haul. And yeah, you know, school started, so I've been super busy. Just trying to graduate, so school's kind of priority for me right now. But I'm back on my bullshit. So for today's video, well, first of all, I just want to say thank you to everybody that subscribed to my channel. I think on my last video I had like 85 subscribers, and now I have 1,700. Thank y'all. I really appreciate it because it's hard. It's hard out here. So yeah, just thank y'all to everybody that, you know, that's liked the content they've seen so far and wants to continue seeing more content. So yeah. Just a disclaimer for today's video, as you can see from the title, it's a true crime. So if murder and graphic things like that make you uncomfortable, feel free to click out this video. And yeah, let's just get right into it. So for today's video, I wanted to talk about a true crime that I read up on. It's about the brutal murder of a 34-year-old mother, which was orchestrated by her two twin daughters. Crazy, right? So Nikki Whitehead, she was born in prison. Her mother was in jail doing time for drug possession. So she was literally born in jail, and she was raised by her grandmother, Della Frazier. Della, she was very lax. Like, her parenting style, she really didn't discipline Nikki. She pretty much let her do whatever she wanted, and she just came and went as she pleased. So then by the time Nikki was 17, she ended up being pregnant with two twin girls that she named Jazzmaya and Tazmaya. But for the sake of the video, I'm just gonna name or call them Taz and Jazz. So they were two identical twin girls. Nikki, I guess when she ended up becoming a mother, her perspective on things changed, which is why she wanted her daughters to go down she didn't want them going down the same path that she did. So they lived with their great-grandmother, so the girl's great-grandmother, who is Nikki's grandmother. They lived with them for 12 years, and then they ended up moving to Conyers, Georgia, which the house was like about 20 miles from their grandmother's house. And Nikki, she basically was just trying to do the very best that she could for her girls. She put them in music and dance classes. They were kind of spoiled. She just went out her way to try to be the best mom that she could so that they don't end up getting into trouble and things of that nature. Yeah, so it wasn't until high school, when the girls started high school, that things started to change a little bit. You know, when you're in high school, you are, I don't know, when you enter high school, things just, it's different. It's so different. So she tightened up on the girls. And when I say tightened up, I mean, she was not playing no games. She started to get a lot more strict with them, and Taz and Jazz did not like that. Because they were so used to their mom doing whatever and giving them whatever they want. So when they started getting told no, they were like, okay, what is this? We don't like this. And so there was an incident where Nikki took away Taz's phone because she was trying to talk to 17-year-old boys, and she was only 14. And she was just I don't know, she was doing stuff that a 14-year-old shouldn't do. So her mom took her phone away. And of course, Taz did not like this. Taz didn't like this at all. And then there was a separate incident where Jazz, her sister, she snuck out the house to meet her boyfriend. In the middle of the night, she snuck out. And her mom, she freaked out. She freaked out so much that she ended up calling the police because she was like, I don't know where my daughter is, because it was literally the middle of the night. So that kind of just shows you the kind of things that they were getting into at such a young age. They were in this rebellious phase, and at least Nikki thought it was a phase, but it was becoming too much. And slowly but surely, they started having, the older that the girls got, they started having like full blown out confrontations with their mother, and the police kept getting called to the house. And there was this one in particular incident where there was a confrontation, and police had to come in the house, and Officer Myra Scruggs, that was her name, she responded to the call. And when she got to the house, she talked to the girls. So she went to the room, she talked to them, kind of trying to figure out like what the issue is. And in the interview, she was saying how she looked around the room, and the girls, they had designer clothes, they had bags, they were you could tell that they were being taken care of. So she was just kind of confused as to why there was so many issues with them and their mom. And when she asked them, they basically said like, we don't want to live with her. We want to go back to our grandmother. Because, like I said earlier, Nikki's grandmother, their great grandmother, Nikki's grandmother, she was not disciplining her. So of course, if she wasn't disciplining Nikki, she wasn't disciplining the girls when they all lived together. So that's the kind of parenting style that they wanted. They wanted the freedom to do whatever that they wanted to do. So they explained this to the officer, and the officer was like, she was just taking everything in basically. And, when she looked at the girls, she said that they just looked so innocent. Like, they really looked innocent. But then when you look at Nikki, when she was having a conversation with her, you could tell that she was fearful of her daughters and that they would work together against her, which is just crazy. But, yeah, so after the officer talks to the girls, talks to the mom, they tell her that, we're just going to go back to our room. We're going to maybe go to bed, but we're going to call our grandmother to see if we could go see her tomorrow maybe. They made it seem like everything was basically good. And, call it intuition, call it a sixth sense. I don't know. But Officer Scruggs, she said that something just was not sitting right with her. So she left, but she didn't leave the area. She kind of just drove off somewhere. And she said literally 3 to 4 minutes later, she started to hear screams coming in the direction of where she just was, which was Nikki's house. So she goes back and she sees Nikki running out the house, and she's hysterical. And, she's asking her like, what happened? She says that the girls, as soon as she left, the girls basically attacked her. That they just attacked her. Now, obviously the girls had a different story. They said that as soon as she left, and by she I mean the officer, as soon as Officer Scruggs left, the mom was basically telling her like, you guys aren't going anywhere. And she started to beat them. So the stories are conflicting, but the physical evidence says otherwise. The girls are saying, our mom attacked us, but they don't have any marks on them. They don't look like they were just in an altercation. And then on top of that, they were real calm. Like, they didn't really have any emotion. And then when you look at Nikki, she was hysterical. She was crying. She was just like, she looked like somebody that had just gotten into something, basically. And so because of this incident, the girls were charged and they were arrested because they just assaulted their mom. And then this was the beginning of a long court battle. So because of this, basically the girls were bouncing back and forth from living with their mom and living with their grandmother. So After this incident, the court ordered that Nikki and the girls go to counseling. And then on top of that, custody was given back to the grandmother, Della Frazier, who is the girl's great-grandmother. Now, you know, I'm sure they like this because that's what they wanted all along, but it didn't help the situation. It's not like when they were living with her, things got better. They were still being bad. So they ended up going back to court, and then they went back to court, and the judge ended up giving Nikki, the mom, custody again. So she gave her custody back of her girl, gave custody back to her of her girls. And of course they were not happy about this because they never, at this point, they resented her. They resented their mom. They didn't want to stay with her. They wanted to do what they wanted to do when they wanted to do. And so as soon as the judge said this and they heard it, they were pissed. And it was even recorded in the court that Jazz said, if I have to go back and stay with her, I'm gonna kill her. Like, this was something that she said in court. And I'm not sure if they just, because you know, sometimes kids, they just say stuff and they'll be like, oh, I hate you, or whatever. I'm not sure if this is how they took it and they thought that the girls were just so mad and they weren't capable, like they didn't really mean what they said, but they didn't do anything about it. So Nikki got custody of her girls, and a little over a week later, she was murdered. And even before then, the cops were called back to the house 2 more times. And I want to say it was about 8 to 10 days later that Nikki was called. So within that time period, the cops were called back to the house because there was still, they couldn't live together. It was a toxic household. It was a very toxic household. And on top of that, Nikki and her grandmother didn't get along no way. Like they didn't have the best relationship to begin with. So really the whole family was just dysfunctional. It was just a dysfunctional family. Okay, so now I'm gonna talk about the crime, the actual crime of how Nikki died. So on January 13th, 2010, Nikki was found brutally murdered. Oh, she was brutally murdered. And the way that she was found, she was in the bathtub. She had several stab wounds. She had 80 to be exact, 80 stab wounds. And she suffered injuries to both her lungs, her jugular vein, and her spinal cord was severely injured, y'all. So yes, this was a brutal murder. And when the medical examiner looked at her body, they said that this was a crime of passion. This couldn't have been a stranger, because you know there's different like when somebody's killed, there's ways to identify if it could have been somebody in the family or if it was like just a random attack type of thing. And the way that she was killed specifically, they were able to tell like, oh, this is a crime of passion, meaning it was somebody close to her that killed her, because there was just so much rage. Like to stab somebody 80 times and to just do that much damage to somebody's body, there's rage, there's anger behind it. And so the girls already had a story. They said that they came home from school and they found her. They just found her like that. They found her murdered. They said that the night before, which would have been January 12th, the night before, Nikki, she was on the phone, she was arguing with a boyfriend. Apparently she had 2 boyfriends, but she was arguing, and that she got so drunk that they had to help her into her room. And then the next morning they missed the bus, and they were trying to call her, like call out for her, and she wasn't responding. And already this would have been red flags, because it just didn't add up. The way they were saying it, it didn't add up. But that was their story. And so initially, you know, they got taken into the police station, and the police, they felt bad for them. You know, it was like, oh, these 2 girls just lost a parent, you know, they must be devastated. They were trying to comfort them and things of that nature. So initially, they weren't seen as suspects. They were not seen as suspects. But then, I don't know, they just started acting weird, and their mannerisms, they just started doing things that were kind of like contradicting the things that they were saying. And for instance, the lead detective on the case, he was interviewed, and he said this specifically. You know, they were trying to comfort the girls, and he asked them like, oh, is there anything that I can get you guys? Like, do you guys need anything? And they said, can we watch CSI? And he said that just gave him chills. Like, their mother just died, and watching CSI is something that they felt would comfort them. And so that kind of just raised red flags for him, among other things. Some of the things that he noticed was that, yeah, I got foundation on my phone. Okay, some of the things that he noticed was that the girls were just like scratched up. And, you know, he was confused about, like, why would they be scratched up when they supposedly found her when they came home from school. So he took note of that. And when they were asked about this, you know, the answer was that they just get nervous. And I believe it was Jazz that said this, because she's the one that had the bite marks. It was just one of those, like, she tried to play it off like, oh, it's just something that she does when she's like stressed or gets nervous, you know, like a habit type of thing. And I don't know, as time went by, because this was a long investigation, you know, when things like this happen, it's not just, it's usually not just a smooth process, because you have to gather evidence and things of that nature. You have to look at the whole story. You know, they even looked at the girl's dad, who, he had a solid alibi. Nikki did have 2 boyfriends, but everybody had an alibi. He was in Canada. He wasn't even in, and mind you, they were in Georgia. So as they started really investigating, things just were not adding up, and they started slowly but surely closing in on the girls. They started closing in on the girls. And another very off thing that the lead detective took note of is the actual crime scene. They found a bloody napkin in the toe of a boot that was found in the back of a closet. as in like somebody went out of their way to hide it because they didn't want it to be found. And so this was, you know, they slowly started collecting evidence. They even found surveillance because, you know, the girls said that they were at school, but they ended up finding surveillance from a nearby gas station, and they saw them walking. And you remember that they said that they missed the bus, but they also found surveillance, or they were able to attain surveillance from the school because, you know, they said that they were at school. So they went to the school, and when they looked at the surveillance cameras, the time that the girls appeared at school, it was like 2 to 3 hours later than they should have been. So they were late for school. So basically they were slowly it was cracks. It was cracks in their case from the jump. I mean, from their story from the jump. And slowly but surely, 4 months later, because this investigation took 4 months, the girls were arrested on their last day of high school. Because keep in mind, they were still going to school. They're high school students when this happened. So they, the officers said that they wanted to make sure to get them on the last day. Like, it was strategically planned. They didn't want the girls to, after they graduate, to try to escape or flee the country or anything like that, because that was definitely a possibility, because they were the main suspects, and they knew they were the main suspects. And Taz, when she got arrested, she kind of just she didn't really say too much, and it wasn't like a shocking thing. Like, she kind of just was like, I don't know, it's like she knew that it was coming, so she wasn't shook or anything about it. And then her sister Jazz, she was a little bit more violent. She tried to, I won't say attack, but she didn't, it wasn't as smooth for her as it was for her sister. And so they were arrested, and they were charged with felony murder. That's what they were trying to get them for, felony murder. They pled not guilty to all the charges. And so obviously them pleading not guilty meant that they were going to go to trial. So while they were waiting for trial to start, they had to sit in jail and kind of just wait for the trial date to come so that they can fight their case and try to say that we didn't do it. And then, so this happened in 2010. They were 17, and, you know, it's unconstitutional for a juvenile to be given the death penalty. Oh, gosh. Yeah, so they couldn't give him that. But before they even got to trial, okay, so this happened in 2010. In March of 2014, in March of 2014, Taz pleaded guilty to voluntary manslaughter, falsification of government records, and possession of a knife during the commission of a crime, which basically means she had a knife during the crime. And so she was sentenced to 30 years. And then a month later, her sister pleaded guilty to the same charges. So she got 30 years as well. And they are both currently serving time in different prisons. I'm sure this was all planned as well. or strategically planned. You know, I'm sure that they wouldn't put two twins, send them to the same place if they could help it. So yeah, by the time they get out, they will be in their 40s. And after everything happened, or in the process of everything happening, they actually found a journal that was from the girls, and basically they were just talking to each other, going back and forth about how much they resented their mothers. So in that journal, they were talking about how much they hated her, and basically if they didn't get rid of her now, that they wouldn't have another opportunity to. And this journal just proved that the crime, the murder, was premeditated, which means it was planned. They had time to plan it, and obviously that didn't look any better on their case. If they had time to plan, you know, their mother's murder. And then, I don't know, this whole thing was just wild. Like, imagine giving birth to two twin girls, raising your kids, and then they kill you. I just, like, it's hard to wrap my mind around that. Like, you know, obviously, I feel like every kid that goes through puberty, you know, they want to do their own thing. They want to have freedom. And kids, they're going to have a rebellious phase regardless. You know, that's just part of puberty. Like, that's just part of growing up. Kids want to do what they want to do. But, I don't know. They kind of just, they took this to a whole different level. They just took it to a whole different level, and it's so sad because Nikki, all she wanted was to give her girls the best life that she could, and she just didn't want them growing up like she grew up. And then they turn around and kill her for trying to just be a good mom, you know? So it's just crazy. Now I know that there was two sides to the story, but later on the girls ended up somewhat telling the truth as to what happened. And basically what happened was, so Nikki was killed January 13th, the night before. So January 12th, the girls stayed up late. They stayed up late, and then the next morning when it was time to go to school, you know, Nikki was waking them up like, you know, come on, like, y'all gotta get up, y'all gotta go to school. They didn't want to get up. They didn't want to go to school because they was just up late for whatever reason. And so this is what sparked and initiated the confrontation. And, you know, they had already been violent with her in the past, which is why the cops kept getting called to the house. So a fight broke out, and this time it was taken to another level basically. And the girls they snapped. They snapped on their mom. They kept beating her. That's really what they did. They literally kept beating her. Taz is the one that grabbed the knife and just started stabbing her 80 times, y'all. She was stabbed 80 times, like, and her spinal cord, like, her spinal cord was severed. That's not something that's easy to do like that. Her body, she went through a lot of trauma before she died. And Nikki, she fought for her life. She had, the girls had bite marks on them because Nikki was biting on them. Like, she was literally fighting for her life. She wasn't gonna go down without a fight. And to make matters worse, during the confrontation, during the assault, really, Nikki was able to get away for a little bit, and she ran to the neighbor's house. So she ran to the neighbor's house. She's knocking on the door. She's banging. She's asking for help. And the neighbor doesn't answer. The neighbor just, like, nobody came to the door. And so because of this, the girls were able to grab hold of her, bring her back into the house, into her house, you know, because it was her house, and continue the assault. Can you imagine? And to really make things worse, the neighbor's house that she knocked on, somebody was there. The neighbor was later interviewed, you know, because they found a blood trail leading outside and leading to the neighbor's house, and there was even blood on the neighbor's door. When they asked the neighbor, from the neighbor's perspective, they said that they heard the knock. They heard somebody knocking on their door, but they just didn't feel like coming down. They didn't feel like going downstairs to open up and see what the issue was, which makes you wonder, you know, if the neighbor came, if somebody opened the door, would Nikki still be alive? I feel like she would have had a chance to at least fight for her life, even if it was in a hospital. I really feel like if somebody would have answered the door, Nikki would have had a chance, a fighting chance. And I don't know, it's just this whole, I don't know, the grandmother, Nikki's grandmother, I don't know, she was kind of weird. You know, as I said, this was a dysfunctional family. The mother, Nikki's mom, was in jail for drug possession. And then the mother, there was already a toxic relationship between Nikki and her grandmother just because they just had different parenting styles. And then Nikki felt like her grandmother was money motivated. And that's why she wanted to have the girls in her custody for whatever reason. So this was just this very toxic family, and it sucks that everything went down like this. But, you know, Nikki, she had friends that she was talking to about the situation prior to her death, obviously. And she had a close friend that she told, you know, if anything ever happens to me, it was the girls. So it's like she already knew that something would go down. She already knew that there would be a situation between her and her daughters. But yeah, it's really sad. And I think I want to say it was Taz that ended up graduating while she was in jail. She like received her GED. Cause you know, obviously, with high school, like the last day is the last day, but the graduation date is a completely different date. So yeah, they had finished high school when they got arrested, but they hadn't walked the stage, and Taz was able to walk the stage. And her grandmother was there, and she was being interviewed, and she was just talking about how she was so proud of her and, you know, things of that nature. And I don't know, I feel like it's a conflicting situation. I understand that she wanted to be there for her great-grandchild, but the dynamic is weird, because how are you truly, like, you lost a grandchild, and it's not like it was a stranger or somebody like that just decided to do this. Like, you know, the people that did this, and yet you still stand by them. Not saying that she shouldn't have, but I don't know. It seemed like she wasn't, like she was bothered, but she wasn't all the way bothered about the death of, about Nikki's death, which is crazy. I don't know, like, how would you guys feel if that was your situation? Like, would you be in support of, would you cut off, would you feel like you had to cut off communication with your great grandkids, or would you still talk to them, still be there for them despite the situation? Like, I understand forgiveness, but this was just a whole nother level. This was a whole nother level. It's just, it's wild. It's just hard to wrap my mind around the fact that they were 16 when this happened. Like, all of this happened when they were 16. Like, they had the ability to do this at the age of 16. Like, does that not blow your mind? It blows my mind. Like, these 16-year-olds were capable of such a brutal murder. And then there's a petition to try to get the girls out. I saw that, but it was a pretty solid case. Overall, it was pretty solid, so I don't think that they would be able to just get out like that. And then they were interviewed after the fact, and you know, they said that they didn't hate her. There was a journal that was found, and it was talking about how much they hated her. They said that that things just went too far, and they wished that they could have their mom back. And I feel like they were just saying this because they were on camera, honestly. I don't think that they really truly loved their mom like that. Because if you really truly love your parent like that, there's no way that you would be capable of doing something like this to them. And on top of that, like, it's not like it was a quick death. Like, this was an assault. This was an attack. This was premeditated. This was brutal. This was brutal, yeah. So yeah, I'm just gonna do my lashes off camera and come back because I'm gonna rush. But yeah. All right, y'all, so this is the end of the video. I had to do everything else off camera just because I am running low on time, got somewhere to be. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this true crime. This is the kind of stuff I wanted to do on my channel from the jump. So let me know how y'all feel about it. Let me know how you feel about the case in general. You know, I like to interact with the people that follow me. I have some new videos coming up because yeah, I've been slacking, not gonna lie, I've been slacking. But I have some clothing haul videos coming up since clearly y'all fuck with those. I have content coming, okay? Y'all work with me, I got content coming. But if you like this video, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe. Once again, thank you to all my new subscribers. Y'all real for wanting to fuck with a real one. So I will see you on my next video. Bye.